The NBA Draft, one of the most important drafts throughout all sports history. Also, one of the most controversial. Now, it wasn't always like this. Before the lottery was introduced, the draft was a lot simpler and harder to rig. From the start of the NBA, the teams would draft in reverse order of the win-loss record. At that time, they would allow teams to use a territorial pick. This would replace your first pick and allow you to draft someone locally. However, it would only replace your pick if you decided to use your territorial pick. But in 1966, they introduced something new. They added a coin flip between the two worst teams to determine who would get the first pick in the draft. The rest of the draft was determined by reverse order by win-loss record. Everything was changed by 1985. David Stern, the commissioner of the NBA, decided to revamp the way the draft was in hopes to prevent teams from tanking in order to get more young talent every year. The lottery involved envelopes of all the non-playoff teams placed in a hopper. They would draw the envelopes one by one until all the envelopes were drawn. The rest of the picks were decided by their win-loss records. By 1987, they reduced the amount of teams decided by the lottery down to 3, and the rest were decided by win-loss record. By 1990, they made it so the team with the worst record had better odds to get the first pick in the draft. Going back to the very first lottery that was introduced, you can see why it was labeled as one of the most controversial drafts in NBA history. Now, the man tossing in the envelopes may not be suspicious at all, but there's actually something very special about him. The man's name was Jack Wagner, and he worked at Ernst & Whitney. Now, this may seem like nothing. Ernst & Whitney was an auditing firm for Gulf and Western, which owns the Knicks. Jack ends up tossing the envelopes one by one, and then out of nowhere, bangs one against the metal, which causes a crease in the envelope. He then proceeds to put the rest in, missing the metal for all of them. If you watch David Stern closely, you can see him watching one envelope the whole time the ball's rotating. He then up the ball and grabs a few envelopes, flips them, and pulls out one with the bent corner. This envelope ended up being the Knicks, which gave them the first pick in the draft. Now, why does this matter? Well, to understand why David Stern would rig the lottery, you would have to understand the situation the NBA was in. Back in the early 80s, it was a rough time for the NBA. The league was struggling with a major cocaine problem. At one point in time, the Los Angeles Times reported that 40 to 75% of the league used cocaine. Also, their TV deal with CBS was set to expire at the 1986 season. If the league failed to change, it could have lost one of its biggest revenue streams. Then Patrick Ewing comes along, one of the best collegiate athletes of all time. Ewing was a 3-time All-American, won the championship in '84, and was the College Basketball Player of the Year in '85. Even in the draft broadcast, next to Ewing's strengths was, "Are you kidding?" Ewing just seemed to be a solution to all of the problems. They just needed a highly profitable market to put him in. And what better place than a team with one of the best markets like the Knicks? Now, this may be the most well-known rigged draft lottery, but there is plenty more. Another one that shows how the draft is rigged is the 1993 draft. This was the draft that sent Penny Hardaway to the Orlando Magic. By this time, the Magic were only 4 years old and already becoming a huge success due to drafting Shaq. In the 1992-93 season, they ended up going 41-41, causing their fan base to expand extremely. Now, they were just missing one key piece, someone to help Shaq, and what better position than a point guard. With just missing the playoffs, it seems that they would never draft someone as great as Penny, with only 1.5 chance of getting the first pick in the draft. So magically, they ended up with the first pick in the draft once again. The Magic ended up going with Chris Webber and then trading him to the Warriors for Penny Hardaway. And the next season, with rookie Penny and sophomore Shaq, they ended up going to the playoffs. Next season was their best season. The duo was on fire and no one could stop them, not even Michael Jordan. The Magic ended up going on to lose the NBA Finals against the Houston Rockets. With all of the success and big name players, it brought in a ton of money for the NBA. It even brought in a brand new fan base with a huge market in Orlando. With all this money made in Orlando, it makes perfect sense for the Magic to receive that key piece to bring them major success. Hometown heroes may offer one of the easiest ways to rig a draft. All the NBA has to worry about is getting a hometown player on their hometown team to gain more fans and more money. In 2003, a man from Akron, Ohio named LeBron James ended up being drafted to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Although the Cavs did have the best odds at the first pick, it just made it easier for the NBA to ensure Cleveland got LeBron. Another hometown hero that was drafted was Derrick Rose. Now the LeBron one may not have been seen as rigged as others, the Derrick Rose draft really showcases it. Back in 2008, the Bulls only had a 1.7 chance to get the first pick. They ended up with the first overall pick and drafted Derrick Rose, who was from Chicago. The Bulls were still a huge market. All they needed was a big-time player to draw in big-time money. And what better person than a hometown hero like Derrick Rose? Jumping ahead to the 2017 draft lottery proves how rigged it really is. This rookie class looked like one of its best in a while, with big names like Markelle Fultz, Jason Tatum, Lonzo Ball, Josh Jackson, and plenty more. But one key player sticks out a lot: Lonzo Ball. One of the most hyped up draft prospects ever, and you can thank his dad for this. His dad, LeVar Ball, had a lot to do with all of this hype around his name. With LeVar saying things like, "My son is better than Curry right now." If you put Stephen Curry on UCLA and Lonzo on the Warriors, Curry would do way worse than Lonzo. To me, Zoe is the best player in the world. I don't know if he can beat LeBron James or Russell Westbrook one-on-one, but I know he can beat them 5-on-5. LeVar Ball has also came out and said he wants his sons to stay local, play high school ball for Chino, or be homeschooled, play for UCLA, and then play for the Lakers. He pushed Lonzo so much to play for the Lakers that Lonzo refused to practice for the Celtics. Now, of course, the Lakers knew about the hype and how he could only play for the Lakers, and so did everyone else. Now, with everyone knowing the hype and the Lakers, which are already a huge market, why wouldn't the NBA take advantage of all the money they can make off Lonzo and LeVar? There is evidence that the NBA took advantage of it.
It's definitely a team effort, which I love being a part of. Magic's already assured me that we're going to get our top 3 pick this year, so I'm excited about that. But it's been overall it's been a lot of fun working with Magic and Rob.
Well, if Magic said you get it, who is that pick?
We don't know. We don't know who the pick is yet, but I was just happy to know that we are getting a pick. That's good enough for me for now.
Now, how can he ensure the Lakers got the top 3 pick, which would mean that they would keep their pick in the draft before the lottery happened, unless things were discussed with Adam Silver? Bringing Lonzo Ball into the Lakers organization would just mean more fans and more money for the NBA, and why wouldn't Adam Silver want that? From the bent envelope to the magic moment in Orlando, to hometown heroes, and then to hyped up athletes like Lonzo Ball. No matter what era it is, or what the situation is, the NBA will always continue to rig drafts and draft lotteries.